Hey, welcome back to Brisket Brothers Barbecue. Thank you for not calling Child Protective Services on us. Today we're going to be doing a brisket flat, something that's more commonly found in grocery stores and butcher shops, especially up here in Massachusetts. In order to be able to execute a juicy and tender brisket flat, we're going to be making our own homemade injection. We're going to be doing our own rub, and we'll take you through all the steps here. So to start off, we're going to get our injection ready to go. You'll see the text overlay that includes the specifics about the recipe, but essentially you're going to be starting with some beef broth, and then you're going to have some herbs and spices, a little bit of Worcestershire, and you're going to let that get up to a boil. Once it's at a boil, you're going to bring it down to a simmer and let it go for a little bit. Once we do that, we'll be right back. Hey, we're 20 minutes into our simmer, and a quick note, you're going to want to get that bay leaf out of there at this point. You do not need that bay leaf to stay in much past this point, so take that bay leaf out. We'll see you when we're done. All right, after about an hour, you're going to want to get a good mix on this. You're going to get it off the heat. You're going to want to strain that into a vessel and get that into the cooler so that we can go ahead and get started with our brisket. Overnight works well, but a couple of hours does it too. All right, we're ready to get our brisket flat trimmed up, ready to get injected. As you can see here, not big by any means, 4 pounds in total. Perfect if you're just cooking for you or one other person and not a family of ravenous brisket brothers like we normally do. The great thing about brisket flats, don't need a whole lot of trimming. You want to take off as much of that top fat as you can, as much of that silver skin as you can, so that we can ensure that our rub adheres to the meat. You flip it over, take a look at your fat cap, or where a fat cap should be. Good Lord, they destroyed this thing, huh? Wow. Oh, that's all right. We're going to be able to work with it either way. As you're trimming the top of your brisket flat, a great technique to make it easier is to use your non-cutting hand to create a hump from the bottom of the meat and let your knife run over the top so you can get as much of that top fat and silver skin off without creating divots in your brisket flat. With our brisket trimmed, we're ready to start injecting, and want to take this opportunity to remind everybody, you do not want to take that injection we made on the stove right off and try to inject it into the meat. There are a few reasons why that's not a good idea, the most important of which is the ease of working with it. You don't want to start injecting hot liquid into your meat and risk getting hurt. As you're injecting, you're going to make your way down in a grid fashion, about 1 inch in between each injection site. You're going to want to move the needle around a little bit once it gets inside to create a cavity for that liquid to sit in. And you just want to make sure you're thorough in getting as much surface area as you can within the meat. Take a couple of angles, couple of sides, just make sure you're following that 1 inch grid pattern throughout the top. Once we have our injection in, it's time for our binder to help assist our rub to adhere to the outside of the meat. And for our binder today, we're going to be using a Miner's Au Jus beef base. This is a great product that's used to be able to enhance the beefy flavor of your brisket flat. It is a little bit tough to work with from the start if you're taking it right out of the fridge, but once it warms up, you can see it gets into a much more workable paste that you can use to get some good coverage over the entire piece of meat. Now that our binder is on, it's time for our rub. We're going to be doing a simple SPG, salt, pepper, and garlic rub today. You're going to want to use some kosher coarse salt, and you are going to want to use some coarse black pepper, even though I'm not showing you it there. Do as I say, not as I do. And then throw a tablespoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of chili powder in there. Once that's mixed together, that's what it's supposed to look like. Get it into a shaker and evenly distribute across the meat. Make sure you get those sides as well. If you would like to use your rub to get a coating on the fat cap side or the bottom of the brisket flat, you are more than welcome to do so. However, with cooking on a Weber Smoky Mountain, we're not going to do that today. All right, our brisket flat is injected, it is binded, and it is rubbed and ready to go. At this point, we would typically throw it in the fridge overnight, let it set for a while before going on the smoker tomorrow, but do whatever your timetable allows. Once we're ready to get on our smoker, we can go ahead and get it up to a solid 250, 275-ish. Would be a great place to be for this brisket flat. One of the tricks that we use to be able to avoid the pooling of juices throughout the smoke is to throw a couple of pieces of wood chunk up there on the grate and drape the brisket flat over the top. That'll allow those juices to run right off and not risk ruining our bark development by pooling on top. We'll check in a couple of times throughout the smoke, get a couple of spritzes with cold water, and we'll be back in a bit. While we do have our temp probe thermometer in there, our test to see if this is ready to wrap is based on a scratch and a scratch alone. We want to make sure that bark is set before we wrap it in foil, so we're going to do a little scratch test with our finger, make sure nothing comes up. If it's clear, which it is, we're good to go. Before we wrap our brisket, we're going to take a little bit of that injection liquid that we had left over, and we're going to slowly drip it across the top. Now, if you pulled your brisket too soon and that bark had not set before you pulled it off the smoker, you're probably going to see it start to run off here as this liquid runs over it. But as you can see, if it absorbs and just glistens with it and stays in place, you know that you pulled your brisket flat at the right time. So let's go ahead and get some of this liquid dripped over the top. Let's get it wrapped up nice and tight. Pour the rest of that liquid in and get it into the oven. All right, after 3 hours of smoke, 2 hours of a foil wrap, and a 1 hour rest, we're ready to see what our finished product looks like. As you can see, we've got some great glisten to the top of it. That bark is nice and set. We're going to want to make sure that we're cutting against the grain here. Let's take a look at what this looks like on the inside. So we can see we've got some great color there on the outside. The interior of the meat looks good. It looks moist. You can see the juice there. We have a nice little smoke ring going around the outside. The bark looks set, although slightly loose. One of the downsides to wrapping in foil versus butcher paper or letting it go. But a good blend of all those different components. The tenderness of the meat is right where you want it. Let's give it a little taste and see what we're thinking here. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, so from our perspective, this checks a lot of the boxes of things we were trying to achieve with this brisket flat. We had the tenderness, the moisture from that injection and from the wrap. We had some great flavor on the outside from the bark, but as you know from this channel, we are not the only judgment authority on these final products. So let's toss it to the Brisket Brothers. All right, first we have Brisket Brother number 1, also known as Concussion Brisket Brother. 2 thumbs up. Thank you, little one. Next we have the middle Brisket Brother. We're going to get, uh-oh. He's thinking about it. Not good. 2 thumbs up. All right. And last but not least, our big Brisket Brother. He's pretty transparent, a brisket fan in his own right. 2 thumbs up. No surprises here. All right, Brisket Dogs. It's up to you guys. Let's see what you think, starting with Zoe. Will she catch her piece? Oh, she got it. Let's look for that tail wag. Oh, yeah. Zoe likes it. And last but not least, we got Artie. Artie's going to get up on 2 legs for it like a little prairie dog, and he's good too. Well, that's going to do it for our Brisket Flat video. Thank you so much for watching. We do hope that it helps you in your backyard smoking endeavors. And as always, enjoy the slow-mo carve into the ending montage. See you guys soon.